What's up, you guys? Welcome to episode 432 of the Established Run NBA podcast. I'm Mike Gallagher here with Drew Dinkmeyer to talk two Western Conference teams that are falling out of the race for two different reasons. The Dallas Mavericks and their big injury struggles, and the Warriors with their struggles. Again, with me to do so, Drew Dinkmeyer. Dink, how's it going?
Better for me than it is for the Warriors, that's for sure. But yeah, it's going well. We are in the dog days of the NBA season. Unfortunately, the one thing that I can't stress enough as I'm like going through the schedule and dealing with so many teams that are playing 5 games in 7 nights and different things like that, getting players out, norovirus running rampant through, getting games lost to climate change, like all this stuff. I can't help but think like 72 games. We need 72 games.
Mm-hmm.
Like I really think the NBA needs to adjust its schedule if they're concerned about all of the different things that people complain about. I'm feeling it now in terms of player rest and games that feel meaningless and non-competitive and different things like that. We have had some teams show up, like the Clippers last night, when they are ransacked and still play competitive ball. But man, bring me the 72 game schedule. That's what I'm thinking about these days.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. This week is particularly wild. Have a 14-game Saturday. 14-game Saturday is just cruel. That's left for the last day of the season when we get the 15-game Sunday. But yeah, let's talk about the Golden State Warriors. An embarrassing loss last night. They were in control this whole entire game. Looked like they had it, and then the third quarter comes. The Kings destroy them, and then they struggle again late in this game. They did have Von Looney start, and they didn't list him with the starting. They didn't list him with an illness. He played 9 minutes, stopped out. He was on the bench for like half the game after he subbed out. But yeah, really poor performance here. They're trying to figure out what to do. They're clearly missing Jonathan Kuminga. Draymond Green's getting evaluated another week. That's the biggest news. And they just can't really find answers right now. They're searching. They pulled Dennis Schroeder out of the starting lineup. They didn't pay much for him, but that's clearly not working. Steph's playing. Shout out to Keegan Murray as an aside. Keegan Murray was really good on Steph yesterday. Got the defensive player of the game. But yeah, where do you want to start? There's a lot of ways to go. It's my lead to this is like how down bad are you? You are Steve Kerr saying we're about to play quit and post minutes down bad. But where do you want to start with how this Warriors team just can't win games anymore?
Well, I think the first thing to start with is the trade buzz and conversations around the Warriors, because that's been sort of a topic of conversation for the last 3 weeks. Ultimately, they make the Dennis Schroeder trade, but still after that, they don't see a lot of improvement in kind of the results. And then you get the comments from Steph Curry, from Draymond Green, talking about how we need to be mindful of how we leave this thing that we built up and different things like that, which are just strange comments. I don't think you need to. I think you can look at it. A lot of people jumped at it as, they're okay with losing or different things like that, which Steph spoke out against. Mm-hmm. I think it just doesn't help negotiating perspectives to like flag a level of urgency to the media and to the front office. But there has to be some level of urgency to these things. These guys don't have too many years left in terms of competing at the highest level. The schedule is brutal coming up. They're on a back-to-back tonight. We're recording this on January 23rd at home against Chicago. They have 3 more back-to-backs before the All-Star break after this. And we know that there's some limitations in terms of Steph Curry's availability on some of these back-to-backs. So how are you going to get Steph through all these games? The All-Star break starts February 14th. They have, I think it's 12 or 13 more games until then. There's only like 20 days until the All-Star break, basically, and they have like 12 or 13 games. So like it's a brutal schedule coming up. And after those 12 or 13 games that they have, we'll be at the 55 game mark in the season. There'll be only like 25 to 27 games left to try to make things up in the rest of the way. So I think if they're going to make a move, I think they need to make a move pretty soon. Obviously, the trade deadline is February 6th. That will be the time to do things. But with Chicago coming to town, all the talk about the Warriors has been floor spacing big. Mm-hmm. That's why we're getting these Quentin Post conversations. And it's like, hey, there's Nikola Vucevic, who's having, honestly, like pretty close to a career year from a shooting perspective for Vooch, playing really, really well, could take some pressure off Draymond, allow Draymond to play the 4, allow Kuminga to have room to operate when he's back and healthy to drive into the paint because of the floor spacing. Like, it feels like they need to go out and make a deal for Nikola Vucevic.
Mhm.
And we'll see if anything comes to fruition while Vooch comes into town tonight for the Chicago Bulls. But ultimately, like, this Warriors team is not deep enough. They are having a hard time getting Dre and Steph through the season, which was our concern. We thought they were deep enough coming into the season, but they lost D'Anthony Melton, and since then, everything's kind of fallen apart. And the veteran players on this roster have had a hard time staying healthy. Dre's been hurt much of the season. Kyle Anderson's been hurt of late. D'Anthony Melton got hurt and lost for the season. And Steph is having to be managed through stuff, and they haven't gotten the growth that they needed from Moses Moody, or enough opportunities for Moses Moody to show that. And Podziemski's been hurt too. So it's just been a mess. They'll get Pods back soon. Wiggins is playing better of late. Hopefully they can like weather this storm. But I think they need to bring in some reinforcements with Dre not looking like he's coming back pretty soon. And this schedule is tough. It's not only back to backs. It's, they do get Utah twice in here. That's helpful. But outside of that, it's Chicago at home, Lakers at home, Utah at home, OKC at home, Phoenix at home, Orlando at home, at Utah, at Los Angeles, at Chicago, at Milwaukee, at Dallas, at Houston before the All-Star break. So long road trip after this extended homestand. And they've got to try to hold serve around 500 here during this road trip to stay within kind of striking distance. The good news for them, the only good news for them, is some of these other teams around them seem to be having the walls closing in as well with Phoenix and with Dallas. So that's the only good news for the Warriors, but it's been ugly.
Yeah, I mean, they've gone, even with Steph in the lineup, they're 3-5 in their last 8. They had like 2 good wins. They beat the Wizards, that doesn't count, and then they beat the Wolves by 1, and they beat the Pistons. That was a nice win for them too. So they've had like 2 good wins in 2024 with Steph in the lineup. It's just not enough. So I don't, like you said, they just don't have the roster to compete right now, and I don't know how this happens. And this is with Steph being pretty durable, and I think they really miss Draymond and his passing and playmaking. We think about the defense, and that's clearly been an issue. Their defense has really fallen off, which is why they were so hot, and they were a team that we were talking about could threaten. Their defense was awesome, and it's just not there anymore because they just don't have that. And jokes aside, they miss Jonathan Kuminga. I think that really hurts them and their ability to put pressure on the rim, have athleticism, being able to fly around, being able to rotate. They just got these old, undersized, slow guys who can't cover enough space and create enough shots. We saw face guarding Steph is a way to win. The Grizzlies have done it and successful. We saw Keegan do it. That's how the teams defend this team now, and they don't have enough on both sides. So yeah, they have to make a trade. The good news for them is they have their artillery if they wanted to do so. We've seen a lot of teams, not give up first round picks and if they give up a first rounder, they're like back in the hunt. I think the Nets would take Cam Johnson for a first. They've got pretty much all their picks except for the 2030, which is top 20 protected in the Jordan Poole deal. So, I mean, like you were saying, is it Vooch? Is it Cam Johnson? I think Cam would help. I think Vooch would really alter how they play, but like, maybe they have to do that. Do you think?
I don't think Vooch would alter how they play very much. I think Vooch. I think all the stuff that they do with Looney in terms of like dribble handoffs and different things like that. Defensively, there's more challenges.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Defensively, there's more challenges, but like right now, they cannot score. So like you got to figure out something offensively. All of the attention is on Steph. They're 2 and 3 guys. Not only face guarding, but they're throwing doubles at Steph routinely. You've got to have somebody that can take pressure off Steph, and that's where Kuminga was so useful. They don't have anybody right now. So some sort of offensive force that can take pressure off Steph, I think, is very, very meaningful. But yeah, it would certainly change up some stuff defensively. Cam Johnson would be very helpful, obviously, to be able to do that in kind of a long-term solution in terms of floor spacing and shooting. But they really need second side offense. Right now, they just are stuck. And basically teams have figured out that, hey, just trace the shooters, just trace Buddy, trace Steph, make someone try to beat you off the dribble. When they do, they're just going to try to pass. Nobody's trying to actually finish at the rim. So if you stay with the shooters and you force guys to beat you off the dribble, the Warriors guys who are getting you off the dribble, they're just looking to pass. They're not looking to attack the rim, and the shooters are being stuck to. So there's nobody to pass to. So it's leading to more turnovers. So they need some semblance of an answer offensively. That's the big thing for me right now is that they've become so one dimensional, even with a motion offense that I think is a great offense. You have to have some semblance of threat attacking the rim, otherwise teams are going to defend you this way.
Yeah, like it's been like Wiggins trying to put pressure on the rim. We saw him be more aggressive with the shot. That's happened a couple times now. So he's just not that player anymore. So yeah, it's and Kaminga doesn't sound close. I think Draymond might be out till the All Star break at this point, at
Yep.
least till the deadline. His calf has been an issue before. So yeah, it's really bad. I don't really have much else to say. Is there any role player that you? I don't like. We were talking about how just it seems so long ago where it's like, oh yeah, Buddy seemed like a great fit. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
like the Melton thing was going well. Schroeder, we thought we didn't really like the Schroeder thing, but I don't know. All this depth is just they just don't fit together. So I don't know.
Yep.
Anything you
Yeah.
wanted
I
to
mean,
mention?
if Buddy or Moody could play well, those are the guys that fit.
Yeah.
And those are the guys that fit the way that they play. Those are the guys that fit and would potentially take off some pressure. But you still need somebody who can get to the rim with all that stuff. And they're playing too many guys. Like the combination of playing guys that you don't have to really worry about defending, Looney, Gary Payton, um, and then the combination of like no rim pressure is leading to everybody just focus on defending around the perimeter and stay in front of shooters. And that's kind of limiting things. But yeah, Buddy has started to shoot the ball a little bit better of late. That's helped a little bit.
Mm.
But if Schroeder's going to be useful, he's got to be a downhill driving guard, and he's got to figure out his spots to do that. He doesn't like the big challenge with Schroeder is the only times he's really getting downhill is in pick and rolls, and this is just not a pick and roll heavy offense. So he needs to figure out how to attack off the dribble, off the catch a little bit more, and get downhill and then be a playmaker. And he just has not. It's been slow. It's been slow reaction and decision making when he's gotten those opportunities.
Yeah, last player I'm going to call out is Brandon Pajimski. It was like he was going to be the guy. Like, oh yeah, he's more valuable than Kaminga. We can't trade him in any deal. Oh, he would have been a top 6-7 pick in the draft. I was just looking at the draft class. Look, I mean, all these guys, almost all of them are trending up. Wemby, Miller's hurt. Scoot's trending. Scoot's playing great. Ahmed's playing ridiculous. Asar's been great.
Yeah.
Anthony Black's been playing well. Bilal's been awesome. Like that whole top of the class. Kaysen, Derek Lively, even Grady Dick's playing better. Keontae George coming around, like all these guys that were like, oh, I'd take Pods over him. Like maybe Pods went where he should have, and it's just not working. No one's really stepping up. We thought that someone, and Kaminga was starting to, but he's out. So, all right. And so are they just like dead, or do they just have to get a trade?
No, because I mean it's the nature of the West in that a lot of these teams are fighting their own challenges and their own low points in the schedule. I think the Warriors are fighting through that now. You mentioned that they have plenty of assets at their disposal if they're able to make a trade. I do think if you're telling me that they are not going to make a trade and this is the version of the Warriors we get for the rest of the season, I think they're a very strong underdog to make the playoffs. Maybe they can be in the play-in, but then winning 2 games to get into I don't think they're getting into the top half of the play-in. So then winning 2 games to kind of get in would be really challenging. But they've got the ability to upgrade their roster, which some of the teams in front of them do not have. So it will be interesting to see if they're able to do so. But right now, I think the most common theme that we've talked about with a lot of these teams, well, I shouldn't say a lot of these teams, but yeah, I guess Phoenix and Dallas, who we're going to talk about a little bit as well, is the nature of the roster from an offensive standpoint being so dependent on a small percentage of the players that if they run into injury issues, you are in a lot of trouble.
So yeah, let's talk about Dallas again. A bit of a different animal here. A horse that has the emoji next to it. If you remember the Rockets, one of my favorite Twitter memories ever. If you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, Derek Lively out 2 to 3 months, so he's out basically for the regular season. At least he won't get full minutes until then. That's a pretty big deal. And they certainly are going to need Daniel Gafford to play a ton of minutes coming off a career high game. Luka Doncic probably out to the All-Star break. I mean, they're missing games from Clay. They're missing games from Najee Marshall. It's tough. I mean, the Derek Lively injury is a huge deal, and they clearly miss Luka Doncic. They just don't have enough. This team is built around those guys, and it's just not working enough. So tough loss last night. They almost had it. Nice comeback, but the Wolves just beat them barely. But yeah, the big question is, like, does this Derek Lively thing, like, kill them and, pretty much keep them from a top 6, 7, 8 spot is really what it comes down to.
Potentially. Gafford has played really effectively so far in Lively's absence, and Gafford has shown, especially when paired with Luka offensively, to be a very capable offensive center. There are some defensive gaps between Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford that will make Dallas weaker on that end. But this all comes down to like, when can we get Luka back? And if we can get Luka back in a week or two, then we've got some more opportunities to kind of right the ship. The schedule isn't, we talked about how Golden State's schedule is very heavy before the All-Star break with like 12 or 13 games. The Mavericks schedule is a little bit more reasonable. There's only one back-to-back after this. They're playing tonight at Oklahoma City, but after this one, there's only one back-to-back that they have to deal with. It's on the 12th and the 13th, right before the All-Star break. They do have a road trip that is at New Orleans, at Detroit, at Cleveland, at Philadelphia, at Boston. That is going to be one where you're going to have to try to find a way to get 2 to 3 wins on that one. And then they can hang in there. They've got a nice homestand to kind of close out. So it's, when do you get Luka back? Because Kyrie is carrying a really heavy load. The role players are getting extended a little bit more than they were expected to get extended, and have come up with like dinged up injuries and whatnot. And if you get Luka back playing 36, 37 minutes a night, it takes pressure off everybody in a big way. So that's the big thing for me. The Lively injury certainly impacts their ceiling, but their ceiling for the playoffs, like 2 to 3 months, we still we'll potentially have Derek Lively back around playoff time if Dallas is able to make it into the playoffs. So I'm more optimistic on Dallas than I am Golden State. That's because I'm not confident that Golden State's going to make a trade. Golden State has way more assets to be able to make a trade. Dallas is kind of stuck with their roster the way that it is. But in general for Dallas this year, they've not gotten what they've needed from Klay Thompson. They have gotten what they've needed from PJ Washington. They have gotten what they've needed from Najee Marshall. They have largely gotten what they've needed from Spencer Dinwiddie. So I think this is a team that just generally just needs Luka. And if they can get Luka, then we can get the ship righted. And Kyrie's been great, and he's been very available this year, which has been helpful. But he's carrying a big load. And just like it happened with Booker and KD, and it happened with Steph, and it happened with Dre, these veteran players that get asked to carry these big loads, eventually it catches up to them. So I'm still optimistic on Denver. Just, let me know when we're getting Luka back, and then I'll tell you how optimistic I am.
Yeah, like you said, the Najee Marshall's, we talked about how it was just failure after failure from the Warrior role players. I would say that mostly the opposite. Clay is probably the exception, but PJ's been great. Gafford's been great. Najee's been awesome. Grimes has been very good for them. You would take almost any of those guys over like the number 2 or 3 guy on the Warriors team right now. So yeah, I feel pretty much about the same. I don't know, man. And should note too, credit to Kidd and credit to Sean Sweeney, who I'm a big fan of defensively for schemes. They've come up with some good stuff. I thought they were really good at taking away Ant. They ran a lot of 2 on the ball, and they rotated really well. And they have enough wing defenders here, which the Warriors really don't. Unless the guys who are like zeros, like Gary Payton and all those guys. So yeah, I think they've got enough. But to that point, like Luka's not coming back anytime soon. They keep dropping games. Can Kyrie stay on the court? He has that back injury that we thought was going to keep him out longer. So yeah, it's pretty thin. But Omax is coming around. I feel okay. I feel like you said, they're in a better spot than the Warriors are. They just got to kind of weather the storm a little bit. Overall, anything else you saw from these guys?
It's also sort of relative to the competition, right? Like, we're very concerned about Golden State. We're going to talk about Phoenix in a second here. There's lots of reasons to have some concerns on the Phoenix side of things. And then Minnesota is sluggishly moving along, and I think the only team you're excited about in this mix right now is Sacramento, who's playing a lot better of late and kind of fulfilling preseason expectations now of late. So I think relative to this group, if I can get Luka back, I feel pretty good about things for Dallas. But, relative to the West as a whole, we've taken a big step back from where I think we were anticipating Dallas would be at the beginning of the season. That's largely due to health. We'll see if they can get healthy again. The Lively loss is a very big one, and if he is not able to be fully healthy in the playoffs, which I'm hopeful that he is, then that would be a massive, massive loss for Dallas.
Yep, for sure. And then just with the Suns really quick, they're winning games. Their schedule was real soft. They've had Utah, Charlotte again, Washington, the Nets last night. So they're getting a little bit lucky, but they're winning games. They almost blew it last night. I had them minus 12.5, and it was getting tight early fourth. But yeah, I don't have much there. Anything just on the Kings? Is this just like I think it's really just DeMar. DeMar's like really come alive. Malik Monk's been great. Anybody from the Kings that you kind of want to, and Sabonis is I think he's still leading the NBA in 3-point percentage. So all their star players and their offense and their defense, and they play defense in a way that's just effort. First in transition defense, top 5 in rim defense. They try to let their 3-point shooters beat you, and they're covering it up enough. So yeah, are the Kings, like, considering all these teams are trending down? Would you say that they're kind of got the upper hand to maybe make a run at the 6th spot?
Make a run at the 6th spot for sure. I still think, the Lakers are going to be the most vulnerable team in the top 6 to potentially fall from here on out. I think the top 4, and then I think the Clippers, when they have Kawhi, have probably done enough to cement themselves as that top 5: OKC, Houston, Memphis, Denver, and the Clippers. And then I think you're having a race for 6 among these other teams. We talked about how the Lakers schedule yesterday on our injury show, how the Lakers schedule was pretty soft until the All-Star break. And then after the All-Star break, it's really, really challenging. So the Lakers really need to start to pile up games advantage on this group. But yeah, I think Sacramento is the team that's most realistic to make a run here. They have the ability to move things around a little bit, but they don't really need that much. They're pretty set with what their top 6 ultimately looks like here. 6, 7 ultimately looks like. Like, if you had to play a playoff rotation right now, I think Sacramento would be very comfortable. The challenge is, can they keep playing the equivalent of a playoff rotation during the regular season all the way through and kind of get through? They have incredibly durable players with Sabonis and DeMar DeRozan and Keegan Murray. Even Fox has been very durable the last few years, and Monk has been very durable. So they have durability on their side. But Keon Ellis has been fantastic. I keep saying the more they play Keon Ellis, the more good things happen for them just naturally. I think if they could get Keon Ellis into a 22-minute-a-night role, I think that would be ideal. And they could use like one more piece that was a shooting wing, one more piece, like the Cam Johnson rumors to the Nets, to the Kings would be so great in terms of like filling out this roster. But they're not that far away, and Sabonis has been playing at a really great level. Sabonis has his limitations in terms of how you build around him and whatnot, but he has taken his game to his highest point. He's been awesome of late, and yeah, DeMar's playing better. They're getting Keon more minutes, cutting down Kevin Huerter a little bit to get more Keon. That's been really impactful. Trey Lyles has been pretty good off the bench as well. So I think a lot of things moving in the right direction for Sacramento. Should note, Sacramento's always been very good at home. Yeah. They've played 25 of their 43 games so far at home. So they're 7 more home games than road games to this point in the season. Schedule will catch up with them on that side of the equation as well.
Yeah, a lot of beam lighting over there. And then just lastly, want to hit the Wolves really fast. That Dante DiVincenzo injury is pretty legit, just because we talked about how they're going to run 8 every night. And, I mean, they almost ran 7 last night. Rob Dillingham didn't have it after his career game a couple games ago. I mean, Ant's been playing well. Nas has been playing well. Mike Conley's been playing well. But, like, Jaden Daniels, career high last night. Like, he's been playing well.
McDaniels. It's
Jaden McDaniels. I've got football
these days it's tough. These days it's tough. There's too many Jaden Daniels is performing well. It's a little confusing.
Got him on my dynasty team. Shout out to me. That's Jaden Daniels. That is. Shout out to the Commanders too. Just random. But do they have enough though? Like Dillingham, I just don't think Dillingham provides enough consistency. And Minot's already dead. Like they don't want to play Joe Ingles anymore. Randall's been like Randall had. I was watching this game and just summed up Randall. He had this like beautiful like step back 3, and then on another possession, pick and roll in the coverage, guy walks right by him, didn't even pay any attention, clean dunk to the basket. I was like, God, that's totally Julius Randle.
The Julius Randle experience.
Yeah, it is 100%. But does this team have enough? Like, I feel like they don't.
I feel like they continue to make a mistake by not trying to give more opportunities to Dillingham and Minot. I don't think you're going to unlock anything with Ingles, so like I don't think you're missing out on much there. But I think they are piling up too many minutes on the main guys. And, obviously Randall and Ant have been exceptionally durable. I have fewer concerns about those two. And Ant in particular, he's young, prime of his career. Like he can pile up the minutes. I have concerns on Mike Conley in the absence of Dante DiVincenzo, piling up minutes on him, what that will ultimately end up doing. I have some concerns on Jaden McDaniels, who has had more like flukish, freakish injuries in the past. But just generally, like this is a big jump in minutes expectation for him and a games played expectation for him than it has been in recent years. He's been great. He's been avoiding foul trouble, which was the key to unlocking Jaden McDaniels in a big way. And so he's been exceptional. But I have concerns that there's not going to be, some chickens coming home to roost later on in the season if they keep running things this way. And losing DiVincenzo to this fluke toe injury is a big deal. They didn't trust their depth in the first place, and now they lost a key piece of depth at a position that they can't really afford to overextend Conley. So I think we got to see it from Dillingham. It was a top 10 pick. You traded a future number one to get that. Like you have to get Rob Dillingham on the floor and acclimated if this team is going to withstand the rest of the regular season. I think it's too much to put on Mike Conley's plate to expect Mike Conley to be out there playing 28 to 32 a night and playing back-to-backs and through the loaded schedule and everything.
Mm-hmm. And I'll just end with this. I was looking through media day notes, and on September 30th, Mike Conley said Chris Finch told him he will not play as many games this season. Nope.
Yeah.
He's playing like every night, playing as many minutes. This is going to catch up with him for sure. So, yeah, I don't know. It's not going great. There's a lot of talk about the starting lineup working, not working. They've continued to fall behind. 17-point first quarter put them in the hole again. Just happening over and over again. But hey, they won a close game. They've been losing that really the last month of the season. But really nice win. I think they've maybe got enough, but their margins are really, really thin there. Anybody else you want to mention here before we get out of here?
I just want to note it's been really strange to think of it this way, but like the last 2 weeks, there's been a lot of turmoil and drama around like the normal. I know. DNVR posted this, like, you're at this point in the Lakers season, like, before the season, it's like Lakers win the off season, the beginning of the season, Lakers, if they can get AD and LeBron healthy in the playoffs, they're a tough out. Middle of the season, how are we going to fix this roster? End of the season is like, the next season we'll get them again type thing. Like we're at that point of like, how are we going to fix this roster part of the season? I know DNVR was kind of making these jokes about it, but it's been kind of a good last 2 weeks for the Lakers in a weird way, even though it's not been good for them in their own team. It's just like Dante DiVincenzo goes down. Then Derek Lively goes down. Then Golden State looks like they're maybe not going to make a trade to try to fix things. And all of a sudden, all these teams that you were competing to stay out of the play-in are looking a little less appetizing. We'll see what happens with Phoenix and Bradley Beal and the Jimmy Butler rumors and all those things, because that could maybe unlock something for Phoenix that they've not been able to unlock to this point. But it's kind of been in a weird way, even though the Lakers have not been playing their best basketball and they've been struggling, it's kind of in a weird way been a good week or two for Lakers fans.
Yeah,
in a very weird way.
For my story to wrap it up, it's just like, man, depth is such a big deal, man. I mean, just the teams that are really struggling, that were like the Pelicans, their depth hasn't been there. The Warriors, their depth's gone. The Suns, their depth's gone already. Depth's just so important.
72 games.
Yep.
You need 72 games.
Yep.
The 82 game season is, and this is one of the challenges, is the way that the NBA has set things up is like, the 82 game season, to be the winner of that, you have to have the depth and the pieces to kind of be able to grind through that. That means you have to have a roster that's like 12 deep in terms of being able to do that. But to go win in the playoffs, you really ideally just want the best 9, right? Like, and you can mix and match a little bit. And so some of the teams that think they're building themselves for the playoffs end up having a harder time getting through the regular season. And some of the teams that end up kind of building themselves better for the regular season end up struggling in the playoffs. And it's like, it's one of the inconsistencies with the way the league is set up currently to reward teams. But, the young teams, you look at the standings, both conferences, what do we have? We've got Cleveland, we've got Boston, we've got Oklahoma City, we've got Houston, we've got Memphis. What do these teams all have in common? They're young. On average, the average age of their roster, mid-20s, lower 20s. That's what wins basketball games in the regular season. Young, deep teams.
Yep, 100%. Anything else to get us out of here?
As always, appreciate you guys tuning in. Whether you're catching us on your podcast feed, if you are, please consider leaving a rating and review. That helps us gear the content towards your guys' interests, also helps circulate us in the algorithm. If you're interested in checking out the video version of these podcasts, you can go to Establish Run NBA on our YouTube channel. Check out over there. Please like and subscribe to that YouTube channel where you can see these video versions. And if you're interested in checking out any of our premium content, you can go to establishedrun.com /NBA -subscribe for more details on our premium product offerings on the DFS side of things, on the prop side of things. Very proud of the work that we're putting out there.
Yep, big slate today on Thursday, so a little bit shorter for us with their French game. So with that, we'll say au revoir and catch you guys next time.